Hey everybody, I know it kind of goes without saying, and at the beginning of every one of these videos I kind of assume that you guys have at least read the chapter, or if you're going to watch my review and you haven't read the chapter, that's just how you do it. You watch my review and that's how you figure out what happened in the chapter, but this time I think I actually need to consciously tell you of a spoiler alert and don't keep watching, because this chapter of Toriko, it lays down some heavy shit on us, so I just wanted you guys to be mentally prepared for that, alright? Okay, and with that out of the way, this chapter was fucking awesome! Stop. Yeah, I got all caught up. That's where I usually put the intro in my video, but I don't have a Toriko intro. It's mostly just Bleach, so, yeah, alright, so this is Toriko Review, Chapter 259, entitled Coco's Hypothesis. So chapter starts off where we left off last week. Sunny and Zebra are enjoying a meal in Coco's house when Coco arrives home, and his hair is all, stained white now, or dyed white, and they're like, okay, dude, what the hell happened to you? So Coco kind of disregards all that, and he just puts this giant rucksack down on the table, and he's like, I have something to talk to you guys about. And Sunny's just like, oh, dude, no, okay, what happened to your hair? Did you, dye it or something? I mean, I'm not going to judge. I mean, I'm the guy with this going on, so what happened? And Coco very casually just says, oh, yeah, I just used too much poison for this. This is what I want to talk to you about, but yeah, I could have almost died. And Sonny's reaction is like, oh yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about there, which is kind of funny when you really think about it, going after Toriko, Sunny, and Coco. Which one of those three, out of all three of them, because they all fought a Bishoku Kai vice chef, you want to think out of those three, the person to actually defeat them, as in kill their opponent, was Sunny. So, I mean, I know Sunny's really powerful, but, I take Coco or Toriko over Sunny any day. But, so Coco elaborates a little bit exactly how his fight with Green Patch went, although it's not the main thing he wants to talk about here, so he kind of just glances over it. But, and this is funny, too, because this is a fight that we've been, me personally, has been wanting to know about for, several months, ever since, they just went down to the hole, and Coco's like, oh, this is going to be really dangerous, I could die. And then we just cut to Green Patch crawling out of the hole, and just like, dude, what the H? Really, what happened down there? But it's elaborated on a little bit. We get all the information we really need to know. Essentially, Green Patch's immune system is just insane. It's basically like every organ, every part of his esophagus, every blood vessel is like a massive filtration unit. And we get a diagram of Green Patch's body here, and the dude looks like he has like brick walls, like literally built inside of his stomach. So it's really no surprise now exactly how he was able to slurp that shit up like a smoothie you'd get at the 7-Eleven, alright? He was just able to down that stuff with no problem. And Coco even more goes on to say that just because Green Patch's personality is the way it is, how he's so lighthearted, how he's so stress-free, that's also a major boost on how his body's able to counteract all his poison and filtrate it all over. Because the way you think and the way you perceive the world can sometimes have a negative or positive effect on your actual physical body, depending what it is. Back in middle school, I was insanely stressed out over a certain event in my life, and it was basically just a month of just solid pain in my stomach. Like, I could not get over my anxiety. It was something that even kind of continues to this day. But if you think about it too much, or if you concentrate too much on a single aspect, you're going to cause your body negative feedback. Since Green Patch is always positive and he's so, stress-free, then his body always has a positive feedback. So basically, Coco's poison did shit. Even Poison Virus, which up to this point was believed to be like the ultimate poison that cannot be counteracted because it's constantly changing, it's constantly trying to find something that can work, just circulated endlessly in Green Patch's body because it couldn't find anything that, could affect the dude. But basically, Coco stops right there about his fight with Green Patch, and he moves on to the actual point of conversation he wanted to discuss with Zebra and Sunny, and this was this giant rock that he had in the sack where he entered, and everyone's just looking at it like, okay, what do you think this is? I'm like, it's a rock. I'm like, no, it's not a rock. See, what happened was, when they fell down, several, 100,000 meters or whatever below Cooking Stadium, it's not really clear exactly how far Green Patch and Coco fell, but after they fell down there, and Coco's cells manifested themselves, which I'm assuming it's the similar thing of what happened with Toriko, since Toriko and Coco both kind of mastered food honor and food immersion, I can kind of see where this happens, where Toriko's actual fighting spirit demon actually came into the physical world and punched a hole through freaking Star June. I think something very similar happened to Coco, where his ghost poison demon kind of manifested itself and literally, spat poison, concentrated demon poison, right into Green Patch's mouth. And that was the effect that had on Green Patch's body. We don't exactly know what kind of effect it had on him, what the poison's exact chemical structure is, how it functions in the body, but that's notably what happened with Green Patch and why he was, like, you know, all slumped over a couple chapters ago when Stargian ordered him to put out the fire in the Bishokukai headquarters. So that's basically what happened with him, and after he got dosed with this devil's poison, he just started going crazy with his breath bazooka, and I don't know if he was, like, hallucinating or if he was just, you know, in so much pain that he was just blasting holes and everything, but eventually he shot so many holes in the Earth's crust, they fell even further to a point which Coco can only assume is actually deeper than Heavy Hole, which also props to Coco right there for withstanding the intense gravity, so I guess he did master that, because we don't really know exactly how he mastered that, but he's able to stand, he's able to endure it. So they fell so far down there, Coco found this mineral, and we don't exactly know what happened to Green Patch. We don't know if he fell down there that far too, or if that's when he started to climb out, but Coco fell down even further, and he found this mineral down there. It was just like overflowing with electromagnetic waves, like stuff he's never even seen before, and his actual fighting spirit, his poison demon, actually came out and told him, you know, oh, this is a good taste, and what this is right here, this is a really good flavor. And it also states to him, like, okay, you can't enter this place yet, though, it's not the right entrance, you can't endure this yet. And sure enough, Coco, after touching the rock, and he's like surrounded by this bedrock, he's like, holy shit, I need to get out of here because this is really bad. So he managed to somehow take a sample of the bedrock and also managed to get back up to the surface. We don't know either of how that worked. But basically, he throws the mineral down on the table, and, you know, of course, Sonny and Zebra's reaction is, it's just a rock. And Coco's like, yeah, well, touch it, and you'll see what I mean. So Sonny just kind of lightly touches the rock, and nothing seems to happen to him at first, but then he notices, like, okay, wait a second, this thing's starting to drain my calorie energy. And Coco's like, yeah, that's right. This bedrock absorbs any kind of energy. Calories is just the energy it absorbed from human beings, but it can absorb energy from anything. So, the question here is exactly what this rock is and where you can find it. And Zebra kind of even gives his, like, laid-back response, typical Zebra reaction. He's like, I don't give a shit about any stupid rock. You could probably find it anywhere. And Coco's like, actually, you're right. He gave it to a renowned geologist to study, and I'm not really sure if he's referring to, like, Milk II or anybody specific, but he gave it to a geologist to study, and the geologist agreed with Zebra, essentially. He's like, yeah, if you dig pretty much anywhere in the known world, even in the gourmet world, you will find this mineral. You just have to dig down deep enough. That's why it's not really well known, except for just one location. There's only one place in the entire world, and keep in mind, this world is supposed to be like the size of freaking Jupiter, in case you're unaware. Jupiter, yeah, this much bigger than Earth, so pretty damn big planet. And he's like, you can find it anywhere in the entire world except for one location. And Coco kind of highlights a point on the map here that its central human world is the one place that you cannot find it no matter how far you dig deep down. And even Coco states that he personally can't see any particular electromagnetic waves from this one location. Now, up to this point, we have seen a number of maps from Gourmet World and Human World, and we've seen the exact layout, but this isn't just Human World. This is a specific section of Human World, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not figuring this out earlier, because every time a map of something is shown on an anime or a manga, I always try to study it, because Toriko in general, Toriko the series, always seems to be kind of a series that parallels our world and tries to, you know, bring stuff into our world. Like just the discussions about how bacteria, how viruses work, how the different compositions of Coco's poison that's always going on about. These are things that can be discovered in our world, just taken to an insane level. And it's basically kind of science fiction if you really think about it. And so I'm always trying to figure out exactly what connections to our world it plays here, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not figuring this out because, and this is kind of the big shocker here, is the highlighted part of the human world is bam, our Earth. I mean, it's exact. It's like South America, North America, the continents are all the same, Antarctica's there, everything. It is our world. And as soon as I saw that, I immediately went back to, I think it was chapter 55, it was the BB Corn arc, where I think we saw the first major map of the world, you know, Gourmet World and Human World included, and I went right back there to make sure that it was the same map, just to see if, you know, the guy, you know, he's not screwing us around here. So I went back to the map, here it is, here's the chapter from, I think, chapter 55, when Tom and Toriko were talking about the Gourmet World, and yes, you can see right there, in the center of Human World, it is exactly like our Earth. So I don't know why I missed it back then. I really should have figured that out earlier, but yeah, Yeah, so the main shocker of this chapter is the Toriko universe, or the planet that they exist on, used to be at one point our Earth. Now you can go into, you can go into a huge amount of speculation here. You can talk about maybe this is like a dystopian future. Is this like a parallel universe where the way the Earth developed, it just developed in this way? But to go on even further, exactly the discussion that Coco's trying to get here, and his hypothesis is basically the Earth was way smaller than it is now. And Sonny's like, okay, well, what happened? It just grew? And he's like, yeah, see, this bedrock, whenever it absorbs energy, it also grows really slightly. It's almost like an organism, but not quite. It just gets larger the more energy it absorbs. So Coco's hypothesis is that a long time ago, several billion years ago, when the Earth was the size it is now, this huge thing came from space, like a meteorite, crashed into the planet's crust, and then dug down into the center. And when it reached the center of the Earth, it started feeding off all the Earth's energy, and eventually swelled up to the point where it was overflowing out from our Earth, and became the size that it is now. And they figured this out because the crust in the center part of human world, the part that's similar to our Earth, has not changed in several billion years, and the crust everywhere else, you know, even other parts of human world, has only been existent since about a couple million, 100 million years ago. Now, of course, that's a huge difference to calculate for all the, you know, the tectonic plate shifts and the updraft and all the different, you know, shifts that continents are going to do over the course of that many years. But the fact of the matter remains that this thing crashed into the Earth and then enveloped the Earth to the point where it is now, to this Jupiter size. And also, I mean, I guess if you're going to stay consistent, the thing is still growing because it's still down there. And he goes on even more to elaborate exactly how the structure of the rock seems to be very similar to gourmet cells, and he talks a little bit about how Acacia thought to have discovered the gourmet cells while in the deep sea, but now he's trying to think maybe it was even more beyond the deep sea. Maybe it wasn't just that jellyfish he discovered, maybe it was something even deeper, because even if we discover things that happen in other stars, the place at the bottom of the ocean is still going to have so much more mysteries than even any of the cosmos. So basically, Coco for a second here is talking like, hey, let's have an expedition. Let's journey to the center of the Earth, this bitch. You know, and I can totally see that happening, because in the Toriko universe, why the hell not, right? But no, he kind of gives off that subject. I mean, he kind of alludes to the fact we have to get down there at some point to see what's going on, because he hypothesizes there could be this huge food utopia. There could be every single type of food down there over brimming, and it could be like this, like a freaking paradise. But he tries to get away from that, because immediately after talking about how we have to go to the journey to the center of the Earth, he's like, we also first have to worry about the situation in human world right now, and that is the worry about the famine, and because the meteor spice wrecked everything, and even with all the food the IGO collected, and even after all the food that Setsuno's assistant Nono stored in that huge ice mountain last chapter, there's still certain sections of human world that aren't getting any food at all, or it's not spreading fast enough, and there's massive looting, and there's people dying, and it's just basically like the apocalypse, like the end of the world. So Coco mentioned something that hasn't been mentioned in a long time, and I'm really freaking happy this finally got brought up, was the Ichiru's full course. And I knew this was going to be brought up soon, because Ichiru kind of died, and when he died he mentioned it. But he discusses we need to finally finish this thing, because if you remember back when Toriko and Coco were going on that little final crusade to collect all of Ichiru's full course, they mentioned that they couldn't collect the one in the first, because the first is so huge, and they had no idea where it's even being kept. Coco finally says, you know, we finally need to tackle the first. We need to find the main course of Ichiru's full course, because after we do that, then this famine will end. And Sonny's like, well, wait, hold on a second. You were just talking about this food utopia a second ago. Now you're talking about going back to the first biotube. Like, why are you bringing this out of nowhere? And Coco brings up, well, apparently the item that Toriko found in the gourmet casino, which also was something I've wanted to know, because if you remember when they were walking through Live Bearer's brain room, as I call it, the brain room, Toriko noted that he saw one little section of the room that kind of caught his attention right before a match came in. Like, hey, I found the meteor garlic. But Toriko saw something. He's like, oh, I wonder what the hell that is. Apparently what it was it was information about a certain item on Ichiru's full course menu. We don't know what item it is, but I'm going to assume it was the million, because what we're going to find out about the ingredient might kind of note to that, although we don't really know what any other of Ichiru's ingredients in his full course are called, but the only one we know is million. But that's the thing. Toriko, the only one that he knew that was named was the Million, because he brought it to Setsuno and she said, oh, this is the seed of the tree called the Million. And he got the information from Livebearer's brain room. He had it downloaded into him. And Coco reiterates the fact that it wasn't a very tasty ingredient. In fact, it was actually kind of disgusting. But apparently, according to Livebearer's information, this ingredient could be eaten infinitely. And that's why I think it's the Million tree seed. And it would make a lot of sense to be the Horstduver of that certain dish, because you can eat it infinitely until you're full enough to actually have your main food. So I'm thinking it's the Million. I'm thinking that's how it works. But Coco goes on to say that they need to collect the one from the first biotope, because unless they collect the one from the first, the one food ingredient's not going to activate. And what I think this means is that, remember how all the ingredients of Ichirayu's full course were, I keep saying Ichirayu, kind of different words there, considering how that name can be interpreted. But if you remember correctly from Ichirayu's full course menu, all of the ingredients were like seeds or beans or very oddly shaped things. I think none of the actual food ingredients will appear until all of them are brought together. You know, some chain reaction or appetite energy or gourmet cells or some bullshit like that will make all the seeds and beans like actually begin to bear fruit or bear actual food. Like the Million tree seed will actually finally bloom into a Million tree, something like that. And it has to happen to get them all. So Coco says, you know, I obviously need all your guys' help for this because the first biotope is so huge. I'm going to need, you know, my electromagnetic waves. I'm going to need Zebra's hearing. I'm going to need Sani's touch. But we're also definitely going to need Toriko's sense of smell. And Zebra kind of brings it up a little bit. He's like, yeah, well, Toriko's so depressed right now. And he even brings up the fact, like, wait a second, this wouldn't have happened if you, Coco, didn't even tell Komatsu to go to Toriko, because you would have known what would have happened, right? You're a fortune teller. And Coco's just like, yeah, I knew what would happen, but I also foretold that this was the best course of action for both of them. They're both still alive. Hell, we don't know. If Komatsu still stayed in that freaking stadium, he could have gotten blown up. We don't know what would have happened to him. So, I mean, yeah, he got kidnapped by Starjune. Toriko kind of got a little bit maimed by Starjune, lost a couple limbs, no big deal, but they're both still alive. So that's why he sent, Komatsu over there. And finally, he also mentions that Toriko is still in a slump right now. He's still all depressed, and we cut back over to Toriko on that mountainside. We saw him last chapter, and Rin's there, and she's all worried about him. And then finally, Naki Master Jiro shows up back in his old form behind her, and he's like, oh, he's still in a slump, isn't he? And that's how the chapter ends. So, I mean, a lot of shit revealed in this chapter, like a freaking a crap ton, really. So, number one, the Earth that they're on in the Toriko universe used to be, or at least to be, very similar to our Earth. I'm not going to say something like dystopian future, like it used to, like they're living in the year 8 billion or something right now, and it's just years in the future. For all we know, it could be just a normal planet, and then that thing hit it maybe like in the dinosaur era, so, you know, the existence of everything we see now might have not even happened. It might have happened like that. So that's the case. There might be a massive food utopia in the center of the Earth that they can never get down there. The information on Ichira's food course was revealed on, like, it can be eaten infinitely. The information on what Toriko found in the gourmet casino, that was a huge thing. And exactly, there was a little bit of talk about Neo too, but it wasn't really that much. It didn't really elaborate on more stuff that we already knew about them. I think it was just thrown in there to heighten the fact that Toriko's group is aware of Neo and they're a major problem, and they need to deal with this eventually, because Joe is the head honcho on that, and that this rock thing is also maybe the cause for something. So, I mean, there's always been discussion about going into space in the past couple chapters of Toriko, so maybe they're going to do that. Maybe there's something around that. But really, I don't even know where to go beyond this. I mean, I want to say next chapter is going to continue where, you know, Naki Master Jiro is going to talk to Toriko about something. I have no idea what they can discuss, though, really. You know, he might be trying just to cheer him up and be like, hey, look, Komatsu's gone and everything, but, you know, you still have a job to do. You can still set this right. There's still so much more stuff to do. We kind of have to, you know, we're the older generation, but, you know, we're getting on in years. Ichirayu's gone, so we kind of have to pass the baton here. You guys need to carry this and move on. And, you know, it really sucks for Toriko, because he's had just one thing after another. I mean, his dad, for all intents and purposes, is dead. Komatsu is gone. You know, this guy is freaking depressed. But, you know, he has to move on, because I think they're going to go to the first biotope next. I don't think it's going to be like a new arc. I think it's just going to be like a couple chapters, kind of like the same way it was when they were collecting all the Ichirayu's full course menus, how they kind of glanced all over, or like half of them, or like more than half of them. So I think it's going to be something along those lines, and then they'll eventually have to go down into the center of the Earth somehow. Like maybe they'll be like a maybe there'll be like a heavy hole, except it's in the gourmet world. That would make a lot of sense, because they stated the heavy hole is the lowest point in the human world, and the place Coco was at was even lower, but it still doesn't even come close to getting to the center of the earth. So they would have to either dive down into the ocean to find like an ocean trench or something, or they would have to have some location in the gourmet world where they can go down even deeper. But I mean, they brought up the whole food utopia thing. It's going to be in the center of the earth or something. Or other possibility, maybe what Coco was talking about was the location of this food utopia. Maybe it isn't in the center of the earth. Maybe it's wherever that rock came from. Like, maybe that would make more sense, because they're talking about space exploration and everything, and that's where Neo wants to go, the furthest land. So maybe that's a better analogy there. So the food utopia is on some other planet where this rock comes from, and they have to go there and find it. So, I mean, just basically think of the movie Armageddon crossed with Toriko, except Toriko is Vin Diesel in that movie, or was it Bruce Willis? One of the two. Yeah, it was Bruce Willis. Yeah, Bruce Willis was in Armageddon, Matt. This thing. So yeah, Toriko is Bruce Willis, and they got to go into space, and they got to find this planet, and then they eat all they want. And then they got to kill this weird guy that has the body of a once hot chick. So yeah, that's basically the movie I got for you. Hope you guys enjoyed. Chapter review, Tekking101, signing out!